All glories to Shri. So, Wednesday class, we finished the 8th chapter. Now beginning the 9th chapter. My dear Arjuna, because you are never envious of me, I shall impart to you this most confidential knowledge and realization, knowing which you shall relieve the miseries. Yes. So yesterday we were talking in the 12th chapter, 13th verse. Said that one who is not envious of anyone, but who is a kind friend of everyone, such a devotee is very dear to me. And now this is going on. Because I'm envious, I am going to speak to you this most confidential knowledge and Gyan and Vigyan. Gyan means theoretical knowledge, it's the practical application of that. So there's a long purport, but I will read some. The devotee hears more and more about the Supreme Lord, he becomes enlightened. This hearing process is recommended in the Srimad Bhagavatam. The messages of the Supreme Personality of Godhead are full of potencies, and these can be realized if taught regarding the Supreme Godhead are just devotees. This cannot be achieved by the association of mental speculators or academic scholars, for it is realized knowledge. Taking the same thing, which verse is that? I don't know. Usually the verse is mentioned, but here it is not.
If it's a what's it?
Oh, no. I see. Hearing retinal versus regular true. Yeah. Say word. That's interesting.
Well, I don't know. The devotees are constantly engaged in the Supreme Lord's service. The Lord understands the mentality and sincerity of a particular living entity who is engaged in Krishna consciousness and gives him the intelligence to understand the science of Krishna. In the association, discussion of Krishna is very potent, and if a fortunate person has such association and tries to assimilate the knowledge, then he will surely make advancement toward spiritualization. Lord Krishna, in order to higher and higher elevation in his potent service, describes 9th chapter matters more confidential than any he has already disclosed. The very beginning of BhagavadGita, the first chapter, is more or less an introduction to the rest of the book. And the second, and in the second and third chapters, the spiritual knowledge described is called confidential. Topics discussed in the 7th and 8th chapters are specifically related to devotional service, and because in Krishna consciousness they are called the more confidential. But the matters which are described in the 9th chapter deal with unalloyed devotion, called the most confidential. One who is situated in the most confidential knowledge of Krishna is naturally transcendental. He therefore has no material pang when he is in the material world. In the Bhakti it is said that although one who has a sincere desire to render loving service to the Supreme Lord a conditional state of material existence, he is to be considered liberated. Similarly, we shall find in the 10th chapter that anyone who is engaged in that way is a liberated person. Now, this first verse has specific significance. The words idam jnanam, this knowledge, refers to which consists of 9 different activities: hearing, chanting, remembering, serving, worshiping, praying, obeying, maintaining friendship, and surrendering everything. By the elements of devotional service, one is elevated to spiritual consciousness. When one is thus clear of material contamination, one can understand the science of Krishna. Simply to understand the living material is that may be the beginning of spiritual realization, but one should recognize the difference between the activities of the body and the spiritual activities of one who is not the body. In the 7th chapter, we have already discussed the opulent potency of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, energies, the inferior and superior natures, and all this material manifestation. Now in chapter 9, the glories of the Lord will be delineated. The Sanskrit word anasuyave in this verse is also very significant. Generally, even if they are highly scholarly, are all envious of Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Even the most erudite scholars write on Bhagavad Gita very inaccurately. Because they are envious of Krishna, their commentaries are useless. The commentaries given by devotees of the Lord are bona fide. No one can explain Bhagavad Gita or give perfect knowledge of Krishna if he is envious. One who criticizes the character of Krishna without knowing him is a fool. So such commentaries should be carefully avoided. For one who understands that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the pure and transcendental personality, these chapters will be very beneficial. Text 2. This knowledge is the king of education, the most secret of all secrets. It is the purest knowledge, and because it gives direct perception of the self by realization, it is the perfection of religion. It is everlasting, and it is joyfully performed. Very long question. Very long.
Oh, this is enough.
I will read some parts. This chapter of Bhagavad Gita is called the King of Education because it is the essence of all doctrines and philosophies explained before. Generally, people are not educated in this confidential knowledge. They are educated in external knowledge. As far as ordinary education is concerned, people are involved with so many departments: politics, sociology, physics, chemistry, mathematics, astronomy, engineering, etc. There are so many departments of knowledge all over the world and many huge universities, but there is unfortunately no university or educational institution where the science of the spirit soul is instructed. Yet the soul is the most important part of the body. Without the presence of the soul, the body has no value. Still, people are placing great stress on the bodily necessities of life, not caring for the vital soul. The Bhagavad Gita, especially from the second chapter on, stresses the importance of the soul. In the very beginning, the Lord says that this body is perishable and that the soul is not perishable. Antavanta ime deha nitya shokta sharirina. That is a confidential part of knowledge. Simply knowing that the spirit soul is different from the body and that its nature is immutable, indestructible, and eternal. But that gives no positive information about the soul. Sometimes people are under the impression that the soul is different from the body and that when the body is finished, or one is liberated from the body, the soul remains in a void and becomes impersonal. But actually that is not the fact. How can the soul, which is so active within the body, be inactive after being liberated from the body? It is always active. If it is eternal, then it is eternally active. And its activities in the spiritual kingdom are the most confidential part of spiritual knowledge. These activities of the spirit soul are therefore indicated here as constituting the king of all knowledge, the most confidential part of all knowledge. So, stop there for a minute.
Soul became impersonal.
Soul is not impersonal.
It's became impersonal. He mentioned.
No,
The
so
soul
some people
remains in a
think-
void and became impersonal.
Some people, no, it says you're only taking that out. Here it says,
But it actually
sometimes people are under the impression that the soul is different from the body and that when the body is finished or one is liberated from the body, the soul remains in a void and becomes impersonal. Some people are under the impression,
So,
false impression. Very elementary part of Bhagavad Gita, or the science of Krishna consciousness, but very beyond the range of ordinary university education to understand that the living being is different from the body. Very difficult also for people to appreciate that. When I was at ASU the other day, and farmer's market. I only spoke to two girls who had stopped. The godmother was talking to them. And then after a while I asked, can I ask you a question? And I asked them, do you think that life evolved from chemicals? And they said, yes. So then I said, well, it can be logically proven that you are not the body which is made of chemicals. So I went through the logical proof, which they had no argument to. But then I think they felt uncomfortable. They said, Ma, because of course, especially in youth, and maybe especially for girls, but maybe same boy or girl. Basically, all hopes are pinned on the body. So therefore, to understand the self as the body being not all self, it's not appealing. But all this Bhagavad Gita is just based, first of all, on that understanding. Actually, Prabhupada wanted us to challenge the false theory that life evolved from chemicals, but he wanted his scientist devotees to make that challenge. And therefore he established the BhagavadGita Institute. But pretty much I see that the theory is going unchallenged, or very sporadically challenged. So I'll continue reading some in the report. So next it explains from the Padma Purana that karma fructifies in different stages. If we perform a sinful or pious activity, we get a result, but it doesn't just come immediately.
There's no process. No process.
From Padma Purana.
Yeah, that's local, no process in there.
It's elsewhere. There's one verse mentioned in the purport.
Yeah. But the translation is not there.
Oh, translation. You can find it elsewhere. So, as explained in the 28th verse of the 7th chapter, a person who has completely ended the reactions to all sinful activities and who is fully engaged in pious activities, being freed from the duality of this material world, becomes engaged in devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. In other words, those who are actually engaged in the devotional service of the Supreme Lord are already free from all reactions. and just moving on down. It is said that the execution of devotional service is so perfect that one can perceive the results directly. This direct result is actually perceived, and we have practical experience that any person who is chanting the holy names of Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, in course of chanting without offenses, feels some transcendental pleasure and very quickly becomes purified of all material contamination. This is actually seen. Furthermore, if one engages not only in hearing, but in trying to broadcast the message of devotional service, devotional activities as well, or if he engages himself in helping the missionary activities of Krishna consciousness, he gradually feels spiritual progress. This advancement in spiritual life does not depend on any kind of previous education or qualification. The method itself is so pure that by simply engaging in it, one becomes pure. So in the purport, there's the example given of Narada Muni, which is described in the Bhagavatam, that he was born as the son of a maid servant, but by association with devotees, he became purified. Going down, the process of devotional service is a very happy one. Susukham. I'll always remember that. I was in the temple at Juhu, maybe 1981, 1980. In Bombay, there's a privately owned college, Somaya College. And the Dr. Somaya, very pious person, he has the regulation that everyone must take a course in BhagavadGita. Except if someone is a Muslim or Christian, they can take a course in ethics. So he had a professional Bhagavad Gita teacher, but the students were not appreciated. So he was also a light member of this time. He asked the Bhagavadgita Institute if they could send some devotees to teach. I was not a member of the institute, but they asked me if I could go teach Bhagavad Gita. So I and another devotee, American devotee, went there and tried to teach Bhagavad Gita. But the students were not very receptive. And anyway, so the other teacher, his pronunciation was not perfect because in this verse it says Susukam Kartum Avyayam. Sukam means happily, and Su in front means very, so very happily. But he said Susukam. In the Susu means passing passing urine. So he said, Susukam. And they all laughed. He told me later. That's why sometimes pronunciation is important. That happened like, how many years ago? 35 years ago, but it's stuck in my memory. Some people think I have a good memory. I don't think I have a very good memory. But things that I have no interest in, I forget instantaneously. But if something is, oh, that's interesting, like that, that it sticks in my memory. So we should have interest in BhagavadGita, Srimad Bhagavatam, and it's very good for us to help us remember. So anyway, getting back to reading. The process of devotional service is a very happy one, Susukham. Why? Devotional service consists of Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu. So one can simply hear the chanting of the glories of the Lord, or can attend philosophical lectures on transcendental knowledge given by authorized acharyas. Simply by sitting, one can learn. Then one can eat the remnants of the food offered to God, nice palatable dishes. I'll just tell another joke, a joke about Chutananda, formerly Swami. Because for those who have had a lengthy experience in ISKCON different temples, sometimes the devotees are given food that is not so palatable. So his joke is, prasad is always transcendental, and sometimes it tastes good. Anyway, that's an Chutananda Swami joke. Simply by sitting, one can learn, then one can eat the remnants of the food offered to God, nice palatable dishes. In every state, devotional service is joyful. One can execute devotional service even in the most poverty-stricken condition. The Lord says, Patram Pushpam Phalam Toya. He is ready to accept from the devotee any kind of offering, never mind what, even a leaf, a flower, a bit of fruit, or a little water, which are all available in every part of the world, can be offered by any person regardless of social position, and will be accepted if offered with love. There are many instances in history. Simply by tasting the tulsi leaves offered to the lotus feet of the Lord, great sages like Sanat Kumara became great devotees. Therefore, the devotional process is very nice and it can be executed in a happy mood. God accepts only the love with which things are offered to him. It is said here that this devotional service is eternally existing. It is not as the Mayavadi philosophers claim. Although they sometimes take to so-called devotional service, their idea is that as long as they are not liberated, they will continue their devotional service. But at the end, when they become liberated, they will become one with God. Such temporary time-serving devotional service is not accepted as pure devotional service. Actual devotional service continues even after liberation. When the devotee goes to the spiritual planet and the kingdom of God, he is also engaged there in serving the Supreme Lord. He does not try to become one with the Supreme Lord. As will be seen in Bhagavad Gita, actual devotional service begins after liberation. After one is liberated, when one is situated in the Brahman position, Brahma Buddha, one's devotional service begins. Sama sarveshu bhuteshu mad bhakti lavate param. No one can understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead by executing Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, Ashtanga Yoga, or any other yoga independently. By these yoga methods, one may make a little progress toward Bhakti Yoga, but without coming to the stage of devotional service, one cannot understand what is the Personality of God. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, it is also confirmed that when one becomes purified by executing the process of devotional service, especially by hearing Srimad Bhagavatam or Bhagavad Gita from realized souls, then he can understand the science of Krishna or the science of God. Evam prasanna manaso bhagavad bhakti yogataha. When one's heart is cleared of all nonsense, then one can understand what God is. Thus, the process of devotional service of Krishna consciousness is the king of all education and the king of all confidential knowledge. It is the purest form of religion, and it can be executed joyfully without difficulty. Therefore, one should accept it.
Accept it.
Accept it. One should take it.
Hence, adopt it.
Oh, adopt it. Sorry. Therefore, one should adopt it. Same meaning. Text 3. Those who are not faithful in this devotional service cannot attain me, O conqueror of enemies. Therefore, they return to the path of birth and death in this material world. Quite a long purport, but this verse indicates the fault of not being Krishna conscious. Why should one understand that the self is distinct from the body? Why should one understand God? Why should one hear from BhagavadGita? Why should one engage in the 9 processes of devotional service? Well, here, so faith in this, they have back for repeated birth and death. So that is emphasized many places in Bhagavad Gita. You may think that there is no necessity to be a devotee of Krishna or a sentimental, but they don't see the actual fault of material existence is Punarjanma, again birth, and then again death. So many times Prabhupada said that this is the beginning of human intelligence, that without understanding to take another birth, and then what kind of birth that will be, without that kind of thinking, it is simply animal life. Animal life because it is simply accepting the body as the self, just as any animal does. Reading some of the purport. The faithless cannot accomplish this process of emotional purport of this verse. Faith is created by association with devotees. Unfortunate people, even after hearing all the evidence of Vedic literature from great personalities, still have no faith in God. They are hesitant and cannot stay fixed in the devotional service of the Lord. Thus, faith is the most important factor for progress in Krishna consciousness. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita, it is said that faith is the completion that simply Supreme Lord Sri Krishna, one can achieve all perfection, all real faith. So next is a verse from Bhagavatam. Giving 2 analogies to show that how one simply has to engage in devotional service to Krishna, then all other so-called benefits are automatically obtained. If you water a tree, you have to put the water on the root. You have to water the root. If you feed the body, you have to put the food into the stomach. If you put food into the stomach, it becomes nourished. If you water the root, the whole plant or tree becomes nourished. Similarly, engaging in the transcendental service of the Supreme Lord is the root of all existence. One automatically satisfies all the demigods and all other living entities. Therefore, after reading Bhagavad Gita, one should promptly come to the conclusion of Bhagavad Gita. One should give up all other engagements and adopt the service of the Supreme Lord Krishna, the personality of Godhead. If one is convinced of this philosophy of life, that is faith. Now, the development of that faith is the process of Krishna consciousness. There are three divisions of Krishna conscious men and women also. In the third class are those who have no faith. Even if they are officially engaged in devotional service, they cannot achieve the highest perfectional stage. Most probably they will slip after some time. They may become engaged, but because they haven't complete conviction and faith, it is very difficult for them to continue in Krishna consciousness. In discharging our missionary activity, that some people come and apply themselves to Krishna consciousness with some, and as soon as they are economically a little, they give up this process and take to their old ways again. It is only by faith that one can advance in consciousness. As far as the development of faith is concerned, one who is well versed in the literature and has attained the stage of firm faith is called a first-class person in Krishna consciousness. And in the second class are those who are not very advanced in understanding the devotional scriptures, but who automatically have firm Krishna bhakti or is the best course, and so in all good faith have taken it up. Thus, they are superior to the third class who have neither perfect knowledge of scriptures nor good faith, but by association and simplicity are trying to follow. The third class person in Krishna consciousness may fall down, but when one is in the second class, he does not fall down. The first class person in consciousness, there is no doubt. One in the first class will surely progress and achieve the result at the end. As far as the third class person in Krishna consciousness is concerned, although he has faith in the conviction that devotional service to Krishna is very good, he has not yet gained adequate knowledge of Krishna through the scriptures like Srimad Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita. Sometimes these third-class persons in Krishna consciousness have some tendency toward karma yoga and jnana yoga, and sometimes they are disturbed. But as soon as the imperfection of karma yoga or jnana yoga is vanquished, they become second-class or first-class persons in Krishna consciousness. Faith in Krishna is also divided into three stages and described in Srimad Bhagavatam. First class attachment, second class attachment, and third class attachment are also explained in Srimad Bhagavatam in the 11th canto. Those who have no faith, even after hearing about Krishna and the excellence of devotional service, who think that it is simply eulogy, find the path very difficult, even if they are supposedly engaged in devotional service. For them, there is very little hope of gaining perfection. Thus, faith is very important in the discharge of devotional service. A lot to think about in that purpose. It is mentioned there are two different ways in which devotees are classified into three groups. The first way is, I don't know where that is initially coming from. Maybe it's in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, but the first class devotee is described one who has very good knowledge of the Shastra and can convince anyone of the truth of Krishna consciousness. And his faith is very strong. Second class devotee has good faith, but he is not so expert in preaching or convincing others because his knowledge of the Shastra is not so advanced. And third class devotee, his faith, not here in this purport, but elsewhere where it is described, it's called Komala Shraddha, which is, maybe it must be a Bengali word. It means soft faith, not a firm faith. That faith can be disturbed. If somebody gives a very strong argument for atheism or something else, then that person may be deviated in mind. So I will end there. The next few verses are very often quoted by Prabhupada as describing what we call the philosophy of Achintya Veda. How Krishna is in one sense everything, and yet he is different from everything also. So that will be discussed next time. Are there any questions or points of discussion? Well, I just make one comment. Now, if I were to empathize with you two, and think that if I were in your position, how it is a little different than what my position was when I was in something like your position means hearing about Krishna consciousness, appreciating Krishna consciousness, but not yet really living as it belongs. So of course, we have faith in all these statements, so it sounds very nice. Then the question comes how to apply it, how to actually make my life full in Krishna consciousness. Sounds nice and very convincing, and I have faith in it. But how to actually go deeply into it. So at the time when I was first understanding Krishna consciousness, talking to devotees, hearing from them, and reading the Srimad Bhagavatam. In Boston at that time, the capital, an a big house. There were 60 devotees living there, all very busy. There was a ISKCON Fest was there in the house. They were printing first nectar devotion. And every day they would go out on Sanskrit on 6-8 hours in the Boston Common. Chanting, talking to people, something back about it, magazine. So there was kind of a feeling that if I joined, I might get swept up into the Any comments, any questions? That's it.
I also feel like that when I joined a new devotee in Mayapur.
You joined in Mayapur?
Yeah.
Where were you? Before joining, where were you?
In my village. In my village.
In Nepal?
Yes.
So how did you join in Mayapur?
I know one devotee
Did you join in Nepal?
in Mayapur and then I went to Nepal.
Oh, you had a friend who was devotee?
Yeah. And I knew the Prabhu also and some of the devotees. I knew them.
So the devotee in Mayapur couldn't come to Mayapur.
No,
And how you went to Mayapur?
I have to some reason. That's where I have to keep up all the things. We are starting boarding school in the village, and Maoists they are trying to close these boardings on this thing and just give up on this thing and just run away from there. And I am thinking I have to join. I read some
Also, Maoist also problem that also helped you to join.
Yes. But previously I got BhagavadGita, maybe 95, I got BhagavadGita, but I joined in 2000. I read some once, BhagavadGita, small book like Hare Krishna Challenge, like that. I previously read. After joining my own worker program, then I don't know what date is, I don't know anything. Okay. Doing surveys and go to temple and go to the Gita class.
Then after Mayapur, you went to Kathmandu.
No, I went to Handwa Rishikesh for reading the Sanskrit. That's where I live in my I went to Handwa Rishikesh. 3-4 months I've been there. And then after back to
All right. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.